Hi, this is Melissa with the Stamping Ninja. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to be making this beautiful card right here. It is made with the Thoughtful Wishes bundle. Right here, a bunch of little foliage and some nice sentiments. The coordinating dies, there are actually quite a bit of them. Some of them outline your images on here and others are standalone. So you can add little pieces of greenery there. But the real star of the show is the coordinating DSP. This DSP is called Thoughtful Journey, and it's really so pretty. All of them are different scenes of kind of out in the prairie, or I guess you would call them prairies, with different trees and different flowers. And then the back sides just has some solid colors or a little mix of colors, but no plants or trees or anything. So it's very versatile. The only problem I have with it is it's so pretty. I never want to cover it up. So what I did for this card is I took strips of one of those pieces so that you could still see some of it, but yet I was able to leave enough open space where you can put some extra pieces without being too much. So everything that you need for this card is down below the video, all the measurements and everything, but I am going to go over them here again real briefly. So paper-wise, what you're going to need is a piece of basic white cardstock that measures 4 by 5 1/4, and that is for the inside. You're also going to need a scrap piece for stamping. You will need a piece of lemon lime twist for one of the die cuts, a piece of Misty Moonlight, for the little die cuts down here, a 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 piece of Pretty Peacock for our border, another piece of Pretty Peacock scrap for another die cut over here, a piece of Smoky Slate that measures 5 1/8 by 8 1/2, or I'm sorry, 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, and it's scored at 4 1/4, and another small piece of Smoky Slate that measures 7/8 by 2 3/4 for our sentiment right here. You're gonna need 2 different colors of the DSP. We're gonna use this monotone color right here, and this one measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then I took a piece of one of the scenic papers, and I cut 3 strips from it, and each of these strips measures 7/8 by 4 1/2. So what we're going to do first is we are going to score and burnish our, well, we already scored it. We're going to burnish our score line here on our card base with our bone folder. Make sure it's nice and flat, like so. And then we're going to adhere our Pretty Peacock and that monotone piece of DSP on our card. And I'm using multi-purpose liquid glue. Actually, this one's almost empty, so hopefully I can make it through this. I like using the multi-purpose liquid glue because when I set it on my card, I don't have to be perfect right in the beginning. I can just set it on there, and then I can move it into position to make sure that I have it even on all 4 sides there. If I use Stampin' Seal to do that, you can't move it around, and so I've ripped too many pieces of paper trying to lift it up. You see, this side is so pretty right here, but we're going to use the more boring side, I guess you would call it. So again, putting my glue on here and just sticking that on there and moving it to line it up so that it's even. So I have an even border all the way around, like so. And now we're going to take those 3 little pieces here, the 7/8 by 4 1/2. Forgot what it was there for a second. And these, I'm just going to line them up the way that I like them here. Put that one over there, that one in the middle, and this one right here. So they're just going to go actually just like that. But I'm going to start with the middle one. So I'm going to glue this right to the middle And the reason I'm starting with the middle one is to make sure that I can have even spacing on the sides. So I think that's probably in the middle. Make sure it's nice and straight. And that way when I do my sides, I can make sure that it's evenly spaced. If I start over here, there's a good chance it's not going to be evenly spaced. So I don't want to take a chance and screw it up. So now I'm just going to put the sides on. Again, lining it up with this piece, making sure it's even. And then the last piece. So I like doing this with the designer paper that's too pretty to cover up. Just you cut it in strips and decorate your card that way. Doesn't matter the size of the strips or how many, it just kind of breaks it up a little bit. So I think I moved that too high. There we go. There. So now our strips are on the card. And now we get to stamp. So I didn't show you the inside. I didn't put a sentiment on the inside, but I did do just a little bit of stamping down here in the corner, kind of tie it all together and to not leave it so blank. So you're gonna need your, we're gonna do that part right now. You're gonna need your basic white piece, and you're also gonna need your small Smoky Slate piece, because we're gonna be using the Pretty Peacock stamp pad. So since we have it out, we're going to do both of these at the same time. So I am going to start with my basic one, basic white over here, and we're using the stamp right here. And since we're only doing just a little bit, I'll open this so you can see it. Since we're only doing just a little bit here, there's no need to really ink up your whole stamp. So I'm just going to ink up just the top half. And then I'm just gonna put it down here in the corner. Give it a little stamp. So there, just a little bit on there. Now, I'm just gonna close that so I don't get ink all over it. Our sentiment. The sentiment is thinking of you fondly. So that is the one that we're going. I'm just making sure that I have my sticker on there straight, which it's not. It's a little bit crooked, so there's a good chance I could make my sentiment crooked. I don't want to do that. So you're going to stamp your sentiment more towards the right hand side for this one. And that's only because the left's going to be a little bit covered up with the foliage. So lining up my stamp here. There we go, thinking of you fondly. All right, so we are done with the Pretty Peacock. I've obviously been playing with it since it's staining my fingers. I can't get it off. But it is a very pretty color. So let's go ahead and adhere this basic white piece on the inside. And get that out of the way. And I left mine blank, that way I can put a different sentiment in there when I want, depending on who this card is going to go to, or I can leave it blank and just fill it with writing. So leave it versatile. All right, and for this one, we're going to attach it right here using Stampin Dimensionals. So I'm going to put my dimensionals on the ends here, and then I'm just going to put some in the center so it doesn't bow. Actually, you know what? I almost forgot a piece. Let's not do that yet. All right. don't stick your piece on there yet. Sorry about that. I almost forgot about the twine. The twine, we're using Baker's Twine 3-color pack, and it's going to be the Lemon Lolly. So before we put our sentiment on there, you take your Lemon Lolly and tie a bow. And I'm not really measuring it, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, I suppose. Very flimsy. I like the Baker's Twine, but it's pretty darn flimsy to work with. I'm just pulling this to make it even. So I want a bow about that big. Measure it out. It is about a 3-inch bow. So 3-inch bow will work. Just going to trim that off here. This guy is going to get attached right here in the corner, like so. So in order to do that, you're going to need a mini glue dot. Just going to stick that little glue dot on there. And I'm going to lay this down in the corner so I know it's not going to extend over my edges, because I want to be able to get it in an envelope. There. So that's my bow. All right. Now that our bow's on there, now we can return back to the sentiment. Peel off our backs for our dimensionals here. Okay, the sentiment, it's going to be showing this DSP right here is going to be showing a little bit underneath, and then the right side of the sentiment is going to be, you're still going to see some of this Lost Lagoon piece here. So actually my dimensional's hanging off just a little bit. I didn't put it on there very straight, so I'm just going to, rather than pull it off and tear my paper, just cut a little bit off of it. All right, so leaving some of that blue out. Just gonna put that side down, and then I'm gonna make sure that this is straight across here. And stick it down right over top of that bow, like so. And then I'm gonna trim my bow piece here. Throw that away. Oops. There you go. It's hanging off just a little bit. I'm gonna cut just a little bit more off. I don't like when they hang off, because then they look funny in the envelope. There we go. I'm gonna trim that side too, because now that one's a lot longer than that one. That will drive me crazy. There we go. Okay, now we're back on track. So now that the sentiment is on there, it's time to work on this foliage. So you're going to need your scrap basic white, and you're going to need the larger stamp that's in the set, this big one with the leaves. So we're going to stamp this image using Mossy Meadow ink. So I'm just going to ink up our stamp here. My pad is not very juicy, so I'm stamping mine quite a bit, probably more so than you have to do yours. But one of these days I'll remember to add some more ink to it. All right. So there's our image. We're done with our ink pad, and now we're going to color it. And to color it, we're using Stampin' Blends. I'm using Old Olive Light and Mossy Meadow Light. So using two different colors, because I like to give it some variation. For the Mossy Meadow one, I'm using my point. I don't like using the brush end as much, because it's not very precise for me. So using the pointed end, and I'm just coloring over the middle vein of these leaves. That's it, just making a line right over the top of them, like so. Not all of them have lines, so I'm skipping the ones that don't, and just going right over the center, making sure I don't go out of the lines. Oops, that one was close. And turn a little bit. There. So all my lines are lined, so to speak. All right, and I'm going to take my light old olive and just color in the leaf. This is going to blend with the Mossy Meadow that we just put on there, and it'll give it a little bit of variation in those leaves instead of just being one flat color. There's not a whole lot of room on there to completely blend them, so you don't see the two different colors, but that's kind of the way that I want it. I want you to be able to see the two colors. So we're just going to color these leaves here. I know it's no fun watching me color, so hopefully you're coloring along with me. I'm going to fast forward this just for a minute so I can finish coloring these in and you don't have to watch me do it. Okay, so here is the last one. And your image should look like this. All the leaves are colored in. So now that that's done, we are going to crop this out with our dies, and we're also going to crop out these extras. So the Pretty Peacock, you are going to need this die right here. So one of these in Pretty Peacock. For the Lemon Lime Twist, gonna need this other pretty one. It doesn't help that way. Right here with the little flowers on it. And then for our Misty Moonlight, you're going to need the two leaves that are separate. So these two leaves right here. Because this other leaf, where the two are together as one die, is just an outline of the leaves. So you don't get the solid, where these two are solid. So I'm going to go cut those out right now. And I'll be right back. Okay, got all these cut out. So this is what you should have here. Move that one out of the way. And now we are going to adhere these together. So we're going to take our Pretty Peacock one here, our multi-purpose liquid glue, and I'm just putting a little dabs of glue, maybe if it'll come out. There we go. Down the center, and just in some areas where it's a little thicker. Not a whole lot though, because this is going to go right on top of this one, and there's a bunch of holes in there, so there's a good chance the glue is going to go through the back. So I'm lining up the stems down here at the bottom, and I'm pushing this one over to the left a little bit. Not a whole lot, but it's not going straight up and down, so a little over to the left. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the Lemon Lime Twist piece. Just adding little dabs of glue here and there. Not a whole lot. I'm going to put some up higher. My piece is got a weak point there in the middle. And then this one is going to go to the right a little bit. So again, not straight up and down, just going to the right, just a little bit there. Like so. then we're going to put this right on here. But in order to do that, we're going to need some dimensionals because we want it to be the same height as our sentiment. So I'm going to be using some mini dimensionals for that one. And I'm just going to place them in random spots that are kind of big that will cover these so you won't see them through the front. I'm not putting very many on there. I guess I can put one up here. And I don't want to put any down here at the bottom. So before I take the backs off, I'm going to put it on here and make sure, yes, make sure none of them were touching the sentiment. So since this is going to go on top of this piece right here, I'm going to put just a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue behind it, right down here near the bottom, just to kind of hold it in place. And I'll peel off the back of my dimensionals. Oops. And then I'm going to put it on my card here. You want to make sure when you're putting it on here that the pieces aren't hanging over the edge, because you won't be able to fit it in your envelope. So just doing some light pressing to make sure that the dimensionals get stuck down and that this is adhered in place. And then lastly, I'm going to put on these two leaves. And I did that because depending on how you stamp it, you don't want to put this on there and have this covering your sentiment. So putting the leaves on last. Again, just putting some little tiny bits of glue on it. And I'm going to run this one up to the side, to the left side rather. And I'm just holding it in place here just for a minute for my glue to get a good hold. And this one, I'm going to have coming off to the right here, right about there. So adding some glue. And I'm having the stem touch that piece. So up against that piece, and I'm just holding this one in place, just long enough for it to adhere there pretty good. Get a little sticky. There we go. And that is it for our plants. So all that's left is to put some embellishments on this. And for the embellishments, I'm using the Pretty Petal Pink and Pretty Peacock foiled gems. As you can see, mine are all moving everywhere, not in the place they need to be. I'm using 3 of them. So I'm going to use a large one down here to fill up that empty space. And then I'm going to use 2 smaller ones. One somewhere right up in there. And I like to put mine in a triangle formation for symmetry. So I have these 2 here. My third one's going to go way over here for my triangle. And that is it for this card. Got our outside done and our inside, and we are good to go. I appreciate you joining me, and I hope you had fun and learned something new with this card. If you could, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate that. Again, thank you very much, and have a good day.